So, I have wrapped everything with single crochet stitches. I went over it with a needle and thread like this. For the zipper, I still have some needles with thread left here. What are we doing next? Look how. I went over it more than necessary. What do we do next? Right now we need this side, our front side. Here is the zipper, it is hidden. Now we need to sew it like this on one side and on the other side. To make it easier, I stretch it and take the part that I need right now, like this. Now we take the hook. We insert the hook in the corner. We pierced, so we take the thread that we have been using. We catch it and pull it through the corner. I immediately crochet a chain stitch here with 2 threads to secure the thread. Now we lower the end of the thread. It is no longer needed. We will later weave it in with a needle. Now we need to go here with slip stitches, inserting into the first stitch. We have already made single crochet stitches here. So, we insert the hook into the first stitch. We take our zipper. Well, I think friends you have seen how this is done on the internet. Here we grab our first stitch with the hook. Now we catch the working thread. We pull it through this stitch on the zipper and through the stitch in the fabric. Here we have 2 stitches and we pull them through. In other words, we crochet a slip stitch. We pulled and crocheted a slip. Friends, usually I crochet 2 slip stitches through these stitches of mine. Slip stitches, that is, so we crochet the next slip by inserting the hook into the next stitch of the previous row. So, this is my second slip stitch. And well, it turns out that I'm again inserting the hook into the first loop and making a slip stitch. So, we did that, right? Next, we insert. The sun has set. We insert into the next stitch of the previous row. The hook is opposite. There is no loop now. We are simply making a slip stitch. Here, I will show you a bit closer. Look, we take it like this, pulling together to keep the tension even. So that, for example, our lock does not crumple. This way or the other, the fabric. Here, we take it, insert the hook. We look for the next single crochet stitch and see that there is no loop opposite it on the lock. Therefore, we make just a slip stitch. Let's keep going. The next stitch of the previous row, and here is the text for processing. Opposite is my new loop almost. We pick it up and make a slip stitch. Let's see, for me this is very hard work because it feels heavy for me. It is hard to calculate so that the tension here looks nice. So, we take the next stitch and here. Again, it turns out to be opposite my same loop. I bring the hook here and make a slip stitch. We have made the second slip stitch into the same loop on the lock. And we will continue this way. Here is the next stitch. There is no loop opposite it, so I just make a slip stitch. The next stitch, here, I also have no loop. This way, friends, we need to do all of this. Here's the next stitch opposite. The loop, like the sun, sometimes comes out and sometimes goes behind the clouds. Cool. Here is already a slip stitch. The loop on the lock, the next stitch. Almost the same as my loop opposite. Friends, the same applies to this little pattern. Here we are simply aligning with the columns of the previous row. Opposite the column, there is a loop, so we make a slip stitch into the loop on the lock. Usually I also make a slip stitch into the next column as a lock. Here, there is no loop, so I make a regular slip stitch. By the way, it doesn't look very pretty. I didn't think about that. Well, through the lace, the lock is slightly visible. Friends, if you want, you can sew this lace shut and insert the lock just here. Thus, my dear friends, we need to somehow sew in this lock. So, the lock is sewn in. Now, I will tell you some details. So, I stitched in this side. Further, here in the corner I have not sewn. That is, I finished this side. Here, I crocheted about 3 slip stitches without grabbing the lock to the center. On the other side, I also made about 3 slip stitches without grabbing the lock. Then, I moved to this side. Finished sewing the lock on the second side. When we sew, it is important to ensure that the distance on this side equals the distance of the lock on that side. Well, that is so the lock doesn't get crooked. Everything is the same here. Finally, we have sewn this lock. Now, look at what we do on top. On top, I trimmed these edges a bit. Yes, just a bit extra, and I melted it with matches or a lighter. Next, we will be edging our dress with single crochet stitches using a different pink yarn. Yes, so I trimmed the extra lock here and melted it. Then we will insert the hook into the lock itself and hide it all, so that the lock goes to the side and is concealed in our edging. But we will edge it later, because we still need to sew the straps here. That's later. Well, that is, I have explained what I have done so far. I have trimmed a bit of the excess, but be careful not to cut these loops. Well, that little knot we have here at the beginning secures these loops, that's it. In general, we cut the extra part, just didn't touch that thread we used to cover our lock, and we singed it with matches. Next, see what we do next. Here, I will now turn it inside out. Here is my inside. By the way, look, the lock. For some reason did not sit very well in one place. Maybe I cut it poorly, I don't know. I plan to put a bit of glue under the lock. The glue is special, clear for fabric, so that the lock holds a bit like this. So regarding this nuance, pay attention. We still have threads with needles here. Yes, we will remove these needles, that is, cut the thread, remove the needle, and also take it away. We have 2 threads left free. Yes, so we look here where our seam ends. And well, we kind of see here, for example, I will grab this loop with a hook and pull the thread out. We took off the needles so we could pull out the thread. This extra seam of the lock is no longer needed. And also, pull out the opposite side here too. So, I will probably pull out another thread so that I have the last loop we knitted left. I will leave it like this and here as well. Now we thread one of the threads into the needle. We threaded it, right. Now I will poke the needle here closer to the lock like this, and friends, from the inside, well, that is, the inner side here, yes. We simply poke across and catch our fabric, our canvas from one side. I poke immediately. The other half here from this side, we are hemming, sewing on our lock. Now after this, we poke near the lock right here across from this thread. That is so that our lock is sewn on not from these points, but the lock itself exactly here, because it will compress like this. We poked across and hemmed it to our canvas. Thus, we will now sew on the lock. And we will simply secure this second thread. I'll also insert it here and pass through a couple of times. And I'll also make a knot. Well, that is to say, so that this thread is secure too. Look, now our clasp will not go anywhere. This is how it turned out for me. That means here the clasp is secured and will not come undone. You can cut it. Well, this is the wrong side. Here I have hemmed everything, and my threads are all knotted here. You can cut the threads. And I will cut the clasp here and a little bit at the corner and need to singe it. Look, this is how my wrong side turned out. And this is the right side. Now we'll start crocheting the straps and doing the edging of the dress. So, to start edging the dress, we need to mark some stitches with markers. That's what I did. I initially had 180 stitches. I divided 180 by 4. I got 45. So, this is 1/4. Of all my columns, I take from the clasp. I count 45 columns, and mark with a marker. And in the other direction I count 45 columns and mark with a marker. So, 45 plus 45 will be 90. 90 is half of all my columns. Well, yes, half. Accordingly, on that side, this whole side will be 90 columns. You can even check. That's it, so we marked half. Well, that is to find the center of the dress. Yes, and to place the clasp in the middle, we marked it. So, that makes 45. That is 1/4 of our circle. 45 stitches we divide by 2. It results in 22.5. I take from the lock, count 22 to 23, and place a marker, also here on. On 23 column, I place a marker. From the other side too, from the middle. From this and that marker. On 22 columns to 23, I place a marker. In total, I end up with 45 columns. Here's 45, further here. Here's 45, here's 45, and here is 45. That is 4 times 45, and in total 180 columns. Now we can remove this center of our dress. We will remove these markers, and it turns out that we marked the places where we will knit our straps. That is, you divide your total number of columns in the circle by 4 and need to distribute everything evenly, so that there is 1/4 part in the center. For the underarms, this part 1/4. For this and back part 1/4. That is, your 4th part, yes, of your stitches, divide by 2 to count here and get the center. Well, and then already from these markers, count 1/4 of your columns, place the next marker. Next, Again 1/4 marker and 1/4 marker. I think this is clear ordinary math. Everything works out. I divided my fabric into 4 equal parts and marked them with markers. Here will be my straps, my shoulder straps, that's it. So, we take a thread of the same color. The width of the strap will be 7 columns. That is, this marker will be the middle, the 4th in count. That is, it is necessary to knit 3 columns with a yarn over to the marker, the 4th column. This will be in the stitch where the marker is. After the marker, you still need to knit 3 columns of the strap. We will knit with columns with a yarn over in turning rows of 7 columns in each row. Look, counting from the marker, 1, 2, 3 to the 3rd column. We grab the hook, we pick up the working thread and knit a chain stitch with 2 threads, then 1. We leave the thread and make 1 more chain stitch with the working yarn. This will be our first double crochet in this row, the first of 7. Next, we make a yarn over. We crochet the second double crochet here, laying down the end of the yarn, and to secure it, we crochet the second double crochet. Then we crochet the 3rd double crochet. The 4th double crochet will be in the stitch marked by the marker. That's it. The marker can be removed. The 5th double crochet will be next. Sixth and 7th, so we have 7 double crochets. For me, the chain stitches count towards the total number of double crochets. Next, we crochet 2 chain stitches to start the 2nd row. We turn the work. These 2 chain stitches count as my first double crochet out of 7 in the 2nd row. Then we crochet the 2nd double crochet, and so on, until we make 7 double crochets. The 7th double crochet can be made between the last and the 2nd to last. Here, I insert the hook, but I can also insert the hook into the very last double crochet. I usually insert into the last double crochet. I prefer it that way. So overall you understand. That is, my strap width is 7 double crochets. The marker indicates the middle 4th double crochet. And that's how we will proceed everywhere. That is, we will also start to crochet the length of the straps this way, by the way, the width. Let's measure it. The width is about 2 centimeters. You should measure the length of the straps yourself. I measured the length of one strap to be about 26 centimeters. That is from this point to that point, about 26 centimeters. This can be measured on the child, this dress, and a measuring tape to find out what length you need, or you can also measure the length of the straps based on the dress that fits the child well. So, we crochet back and forth in rows of 7 double crochets. We knit the required length, and then we will attach our straps, the upper part of our dresses. Look here, I knitted one strap. I have 26 centimeters, and now I will show how I connect it. Look. This is my front side. I need to connect it with this marker. Like this for the strap. Yes, I turn it inside out. This is how my back looks. Here's the back. The straps, that is, the front side inside and the front side of the dress, and the front side of the strap need to be aligned, so it doesn't twist here. Now we count from the marker to the right. The 3rd stitch, 1, 2, 3, we pin the hook. Here on the back side we pin the hook and knit a slip stitch. We connect it, so the back is on top. Here, the back is on top, and the front side is inside. This is how we made the slip stitch. After this, we knit 1 chain stitch. This will be our first stitch, as it were, without a yarn over, so we will now connect the strap with the dress with stitches without yarn overs. This is our first stitch. A chain stitch will be here. Yes, we insert into the next stitch with the yarn over from the previous row of the strap and the next stitch of the dress. We knit a stitch without a yarn over. A slip stitch can also be used. So, we are sewing in this way. 7 stitches have been knitted. Next, we have sewn together, yes. Next, I insert the hook into the next stitch of the dress and knit a slip stitch. For reliability, we make 1 chain stitch to rise. I pull the yarn and cut it this way. We managed it, we sewed. Yes, then this little thread that remains here, we will lay when we bind the dress. At the same time, it will also secure our end of the thread. The sun has already set again. So, this is how it turned out for us. Thus, friends, we are making the second strap. Well, all of my straps turned out to be 26 centimeters, and I knitted 47 rows with turning rows. Now we just need to do the edging. We will edge with pink color using single crochet stitches. But, friends, I edge by turning the wrong side towards me and begin to edge with single crochet stitches. Well, because when edging with single crochet stitches, the row turns in such a way that, well, there it is, no yarn over. So look, we will edge from the wrong side. That means we take the wrong side towards us. Here, we start at the zipper location. Look, I inserted the hook straight. Our hook is small, so it goes well into the zipper, right into the zipper, over here. I inserted the hook and then we will catch the corner of our fabric. Well, so that our zipper hides like this and goes to the sides. Then we take the pink thread in my case. We pull this thread through our fabric and through the zipper. Here we have pulled it through, then we knit 1 chain stitch for securing. We leave the end of the thread, now we will. With 1 thread, we will knit and chain 1 more stitch. Here we pin next to it over here. Well, let's see. So that right opposite our next stitch here is where we insert the hook directly into the zipper. You need to press a little, but everything fits well. Then we take the next stitch of the fabric and, well, that is, we knit single crochet stitches while incorporating our zipper. And for the 3rd time, I also insert into the zipper and immediately lay this thread into the next stitch to hide. The zipper remains uncovered. I will cut it. So friends, let's continue. We are already making progress. The clasp is sewn into the next loop of the fabric. That means we are continuing with the usual edging of our dress. We insert the hook into the top of the previous column. We crochet a single crochet stitch simultaneously like this. And basically, that's enough. You can just cut it now. Next, we simply have the inside side of the dress facing us. we crochet regular single crochet stitches around like this on my front side. I will be edging with single crochet stitches into each loop, right here at the corner. I don't know, you could crochet 2 single crochet stitches. Next we go along this side of the lace and crochet up to this lace. Here too, at the corner, we edge the lace with 2 single crochet stitches at the corner as well. We reach our clasp again, where we act exactly the same. So, friends, let's edge it. Then we edge these parts, namely under the arms, this part, and this part of the lace. That's it, friends. We are edging, but we have edged and hidden all the threads. Friends, now we start crocheting these bows, which will be at the tops. I have 6 tops, so I will crochet 6 bows. To crochet a bow, we need to make a regular band with single crochet stitches. I have already done that. Now I will measure. Here it is 5 centimeters wide. The band is 3 centimeters long. I won't explain how to crochet this band now. I have a video lesson. Look here, for those who don't know how to crochet such a band with single crochet stitches. You crochet this band to the size you need. As I said, mine is 5 by 3. Yes, then we edge this band with single crochet stitches. I had the end of the thread here, and I pulled it to the center here. That's it. Now we need to pinch the flower here and make ropes that should hang down. The string here is just an ordinary little cord we have. That is, these are air loops plus a second row of single crochet stitches. And I've ended up with 50 single crochet stitches here. That means I made 50 chain stitches plus 1 more stitch. This is the starting stitch, and I crocheted 50 single crochet stitches into each chain stitch. Everything is secured. Here I hid the thread. From here, we got such a little spiral. And now we need to attach it to the bow to make it look nice. Look, we take a piece of thread, well, quite a large size. I prefer to take more, then we can cut off the excess. We cut it, thread it into the needle. So we threaded it, and we will sew with 1 thread. And I tied a little knot. Alright, we take this spiral, we fold it in half. Approximately to make it so. Now we find the center, and in the center, we pin our needle, that is, we secure our little knot. We can do it again. When we knit our bow, we will have many tails left, and one of the tails needs to be brought to the middle. Then, with this tail, that is, we look at which side we would like to be on the front. This will be on top for me. That means we will then fold the bow like this. And with this thread, we simply wrap it in the middle, yes, like this. And this thread, well, basically, friends, it doesn't matter how you do it. I'm showing how I do it. This thread I thread into the needle. There, threaded the needle. And on the wrong side, I will make a knot and secure this thread. 1 knot, and I think it will be enough because on top we will still be wrapping. Now we take our spiral, the corner with the thread. We need to sew this little spiral. Here's the back side, behind. We have already pushed it into the center there. We need to attach this center to the center of the flower. That is, we take the needle and simply push it in here. So it is the back side. Here is the front side. We will make a couple of stitches here. that is, just a little more. We will pull the thread through our ribbons, these little decorations. So, to secure it, we can make a knot. Here, friends, I think it will not be hard for you to sew this little spiral onto the bow itself. Yes, with this thread and needle, you can wrap our bow a few more times like this, so? Let's see how much you want it to be here. Not too much less. Well, like this, approximately. Yes, that's it. And again, I will make a few knots here to secure the thread. This is what our bow looks like, and I will not cut the thread for now. With its help, we will attach our bow to the dress. One can help to curl these spirals a bit and sew to the tip. I have 6 tips, so I will have 6 bows. One is done. I need to make 5 more, and we will sew them onto these tips. So, dear friends, we have sewn our bows. After that, let's sew a larger bow here, the same one. Friends, look, here's the bow I made. I knitted it a bit bigger. Here, I have 30 stitches in width and knitted 15 rows in height. These spirals I have 60 chain stitches and 1 row of single crochet. This bow can. It was necessary to sew on this side, lower, higher. It's up to you. I decided to do it this way. Initially, I thought of sewing 2 smaller bows here, like the ones I have at the bottom, but then I decided to crochet the ballerina using Solomon's knots. But that will be in the next video. By the way, I sewed the bows not only in the center. I secured these points so they wouldn't stick out. They were like a big bow. And all these little ones too. That is, I secured a little bit here with thread. So that's all. We have finished crocheting our dresses. Therefore, friends, I think you all managed it. We will meet in the next video. We will crochet a ballerina for this dress. Wishing you easy stitches, good mood, and see you soon in the next masterclass.